my fellow wizards, as you journey throughout the spiral and level up, you'll get a bunch of different spells to add to your arsenal, but did you know there may be spells you've missed entirely? There are actually a ton of hidden, secret spell trainers that the average player might never find, each with their own unique spells you won't want to miss out on. These include everything from incredibly useful utility spells like traps, shields, auras, and buffs, to transformation spells, minion spells, mutations, spell fusions, lore spells, and even some newly added shadow spells. So in this video, I'll be covering where to find every single secret spell trainer in the game so you can learn every amazing spell possible. My criteria for what makes a spell trainer secret or hidden is that they're generally off the beaten path or easy to miss in some way, or it's just unclear that they offer spell training. They might also be part of side quests that the average player might accidentally overlook. For those reasons, I won't be including any of the Ravenwood or Arcanum professors in this video, nor the spellweaving trees in Selenopolis, though if you'd like a guide on all your spellweaving options, I have several in-depth videos on the topic. Finally, many of these spells should be free to train for your native school, however, others will cost training points, which can be in rather short supply these days, so if you're running low, I also recommend checking out my other video on how to get max training points. Alright, with all that out of the way, let's start in Wizard City with Sabrina Greenstar. You can find Sabrina to the left-hand side of the fairgrounds in the commons area. Starting at level 10, she offers 80% shields for every school besides balance, and after a more recent update, she also offers negative 35% school weakness spells. Both of these can be very useful when fighting specific school bosses, and you can get your native school spells for free without spending any training points, so these are definitely worth grabbing. Next up are all the Ravenwood trees, who originally only sold various school treasure cards, but now, after the Selenopolis update, also allow you to learn various fusions for your level 170 Selenopolis spells. Each tree will allow you to train 2 different fusions, assuming you've unlocked your Selenopolis spell, and you can then combine the 2 relevant spells together in battle to create a new spell with different effects. These can be really fun to play around with, so I think they're worth picking up. Along similar lines, our next spell trainer is Mortis, the Death Tree, who can be found in Nightside behind the waterfall in the Commons. Mortis is part of several quests, but I think it can be easy to miss that he also offers spell training. At level 0, you can train Infection and Threefold Fever. At level 10 through 15, you can train the various school pacify spells. At level 15, you can train Isis Taunt spell, and then he also has more fusions for Death's level 170 spell, Anubis. Now, I want to add a spell trainer that has actually changed after the recent Darkmoor update. Diego the Duel Master, who can be found on the right-hand side of Unicorn Way, just outside the arena, used to carry all the PvP-only spells for each school. However, now, those spells have also become usable in PvE, which is pretty cool, so they have been moved from him to your school professors in Ravenwood. Spells can be trained at levels 50, 70, and 100, so there's something here for wizards at many different levels, and some of these spells are genuinely really useful and fun to cast. For anyone who feels overwhelmed by what all the spells do and how they work, you can check out my other in-depth video. Finally, let's find Mildred Farseer in Colossus Boulevard. She can be very easy to miss because she's tucked inside what looks like an empty house downhill from Mindy Pixie Crown near the teleport hub. However, Mildred has some really important spells such as Life's level 10 trap, which all life wizards should absolutely grab. Although, the devs hiding such an important low-level life spell down here does feel a bit mean. But it's not like they've ever gatekept any other important PvE life spells from us, right? Yeah, still bitter about that one. Anyway, Mildred also offers the spell Reshuffle at level 20, as well as the School Dispels at level 22, both of which can be very helpful in certain fights. I personally always at minimum keep a Reshuffle treasure card in all my decks in case I run out of spells, but you can also just train the spell outright. Shifting over to our next world, Krokotopia, it's time to hunt down our last tree, Niles, who is found to the right-hand side of the entrance to the Krokosphinx after riding the flying ship. I'm sure most players notice him when questing, but I've definitely met people who never realized he also offers a bunch of amazing spells as well. At level 15, he offers Elemental Trap and the newer Elemental and Spiritual Weaknesses. At level 20, you can also grab Spirit Trap. Then at level 25, you can get the Elemental and Spirit Blades. Finally, just like the other school trees, you could pick up 2 fusions for Balance's Selenopolis spell, Chameleon Clash at level 170. Balance wizards can pick up all these spells for free without spending any training points and absolutely should do so, but I recommend other schools at minimum pick up either Elemental or Spiritual Blade, whichever has your native school blade included, as they give you a fantastic extra buff at early levels. Next, we've got to find a hidden shop in the Oasis, literally called the Secret Shop, which is, Subtle, because it can be quite tricky to discover if you don't already know about it. First, you need to find the 3 pillars on the teleport located in the shop area of the oasis. Most of the time you can't access this portal, however, every 10 minutes the pillars will fully light up and the portal activates so you can travel through it. If you swap realms, each portal is actually on a different timer, so you can keep changing realms until you find one where the portal is open if you don't want to wait the full 10 minutes. Once you get through, check the roof of the shop to find our secret spell trainer, Tishma, who will allow you to train the level 10 through 25 myth minion spells, which have a variety of different effects. Obviously, myth wizards should grab these because they're free, but other schools may not find these as useful. As a fun bonus, you can also earn a special badge by visiting the secret shop under Tishma 5 times by going in and out. With Krokotopia out of the way, we can head to Marleybone, where you'll want to travel to Digmore Station. On the right-hand side, across from Sherlock Bones, you'll notice a set of stairs going down to the Airedale's hideaway. If you head down, you'll find the trainer Croaky on the left-hand side of the room. He'll allow you to train the level 25 minion spells for each school, which generally give either health or pips for sacrificing a minion. Again, these might not be as useful if you aren't using minions a lot, but it's always worth grabbing your native school spell for free. Now let's make a slight detour to Grizzleheim because there's a special NPC here with several side quests that reward you with spells that can be very easy to miss. Eric Weird Rune can be found in Northgard to the right-hand side of the stairs up to the Great Hall. At level 35, you can get the quest Thief of Spells, which requires you to defeat Wagner Rune Thief. Once you do, you'll then get a variety of different spells depending on your native school. Balance gets Elemental and Spirit Diffuse, Death gets Dark Pact, which is now called Dark Tribute after the most recent update. Fire gets Fuel, Ice gets Legion Shield, Life gets Triage, Myth gets Shatter, and Storm gets Supercharge, all of which are pretty useful utility spells you'll definitely want to have. However, Eric's not done with you quite yet, because at level 55 he'll offer you another quest called The Rune Down, which has you defeating the boss Skabruk for even more spells. This time, Balance gets Availing Hands, Death gets Virulent Plague, Fire gets Power Link, Ice gets Frozen Armor, Life gets Brilliant Light, Myth gets Talos, and Storm gets Insane Bolt. Mooshu is up next, where we'll need to brave the Shirataki Temple dungeon located in Shoshin Village to find our next spell trainer. We're looking for Master Yankan Cook, who can be found all the way at the very end of the dungeon, right before the final fight with Hideyoshi and the Plague Oni. Now, Yankan Cook is a little different from other spell trainers in that instead of letting you train spells outright, he actually sells recipes so you can craft the spells and learn them permanently that way. Each spell recipe costs 60,000 gold to buy, so definitely make sure you have that amount ready before going through the dungeon, because yeah, every time you want to train a spell from him, you will have to run the whole thing again. And while 60,000 gold sounds like a steep cost, he does offer some pretty awesome lore spells, including Brimstone Revenant, Goat Monk, Keeper of the Flame, Krampus, Luminous Weaver, Ninja Pigs, and Samurai. Buying the spell recipes from Yankan Cook basically offers players an alternative way to learn lore spells rather than having to unlock them with spellaments by opening packs or farming gold key bosses, though there are definitely some rare ingredients you'll need to craft them. I do have a guide on farming gold key bosses and another video on gardening for Amber if you're struggling with either option. We've covered all our first arc hidden spell trainers, so let's head to Celestia, where there's a ton of secrets to find. First are some slightly more obvious trainers located in Celestia Base Camp on the right-hand side. Talk to Luella Corey for the quest about the astrals to gain access to the 3 astral trainers here. You can interact with the Sunspell trainer to learn the Strong and Keen Eyes enchants at level 50, then Giant and Accurate at level 52. At minimum, definitely grab all the Damage Sun enchants because these are incredibly helpful and I'd argue almost mandatory all the way up to max level. Then for the Moon School trainer, you can grab the level 50 Polymorph Gobbler and Mander, although most players tend to avoid Moon School spells in general since they're just not as useful, although they can still be fun to mess around with for the gimmick of it. And if you train all of them, you will get a pretty snazzy badge called Master of Shapes to commemorate all those wasted training points, so that's fun. Finally, at the Star School trainer, you can learn Fortify, Amplify, and Pathogen starting at level 52. If we then head over to the District of the Stars, you can walk straight ahead to the Stellarium dungeon where we'll find our next spell trainers. Immediately inside, just past the first set of shark mobs, there are 2 identical Star School trainers that will let you train some new spells. You can train Fortify and Amplify here just like the first trainer, but you can also grab Infallible at level 54, Attenuate, Starfall, and Vengeance at level 56, and Empowerment at level 58, with Attenuate being a personal favorite of mine because it allows you to place an incoming damage aura on the enemy, kind of like a trap. Once you're done here, go to the floating land and head up the ramp to the left toward the beach camp with the teleport hub. Right next to the teleports, you'll find another Sun School trainer where you can get some new enchantments. You can get the previously mentioned level 50 and 52 damage and accuracy spells, but there's also the new level 54 sniper spell, level 56 monstrous, and level 58 unstoppable and gargantuan. However, we're not done here quite yet because there's another spell trainer located further in. Take the teleport to the Watermole village, then head through the village and down this side tunnel to find Tupatawa. You'll likely talk to this NPC during the main questline for this area, but it can be easy to miss that he does also offer spell training. You can learn the level 50 Mega School Pacify spells as well as Ice's Mega Taunt from him, so at minimum grab your free native school spell from him. Now let's head to the Portico dungeon back in Celestia base camp. Once you enter, you can head down the ramps immediately to the left or right to find two identical Moon School trainers near the domed buildings. These trainers offer the level 50 through 58 polymorph spells, including Polymorph Gobbler, Mander, Bandit, Ninja, and Dragon if you feel like dabbling in some moon magic. And we're still not done with Celestia, so now go to Storm Riven to find our next two trainers who are honestly some of the most well-hidden NPCs in this video. First, take the teleport to the ossuary, then cut directly through the area, avoiding the mobs in the process, and around the corner to the left to find Ulantor Star Mist tucked away near the Lounging Lizard. He offers the level 55 through 58 polymorph spells, including Polymorph Treant, Colossus, and Elementals. Finally, if you head into Storm Riven Hall and check out the upper right corner of the map, you'll find Corsten Bloodscorn hidden behind a wall because he's apparently feeling particularly antisocial. He trains the level 54 through 58 mutate spells, which include Mutate Banshee, Sprite, Minotaur, Wyvern, Kraken, Swarm, and Phoenix. You use them by combining the relevant spells with these mutate spells in battle to create a new version of the spell. So these were basically an earlier concept for what has now become spell weaving, but it's kind of a shame that mutate spells fell out of use. You can, for instance, see how similar Mutate Kraken, which creates Inferno Kraken, and the weaving spell Boiling Kraken are to each other. I do want to note that you can buy most of these exact same mutation spells as treasure cards from the Archivist in the District of the Stars in Celestia if you don't want to waste training points, and it's the same case for most of the polymorph spells. We're finally finished with Celestia, so let's shift over to Zafaria, where there's a couple more astral spell trainers to check out. First, we have the Star School trainer in Zamunda, which is tucked away behind this door on the left-hand side of the village when you enter. You'll first need to complete the quest Snake in the Grass to access the area, and have gotten the quest Astral Weeks from Inyanga White Stripes and Baobab Crossroads at level 64, so you can finally talk to Mandisa Autumn Rain to get the quest Stars and Stripes to finally activate the trainer. Once you've finished all that, you can train the level 66 spells Berserk, Mend, and Cosmic Charge. Of these, it's absolutely worth picking up Berserk because it's the prerequisite for later training Frenzy, which is most players' go-to aura spell at higher levels. Now we can head to the Drum Jungle, where you'll need to complete the quest Midnight Sun, given by Coco Smoke Sign, located down the ramp from the teleport hub, before you can access the Sun School trainer near the boat to Stone Town. Here you can train the level 64 spells, Colossal and Extraordinary. Up next is Avalon, where we can find Friar Nolan and Caliburn right next to the entrance to Abbey Road. If you finished Eric Weirdrune's level 55 quest, The Rune Down in Grizzleheim, Friar Nolan will give you the quest No Pain, No Aggravain at level 72, so if you've missed Eric's quest, it's easy to miss this one too. He'll ask you to defeat Sir Aggravain and reward you with a bunch of utility spells depending on your school. Balance gets Mana Burn, Death gets Mass Infection, Fire gets Detonate, Ice gets Snowdrift, Life gets Mass Triage, Myth gets Shift, and Storm gets Enfeeble. Once you've finished Friar Nolan's quest, you can then head over to the High Road. If you go straight ahead from the entrance and look near the big tree, you'll see Fianna Yellowknife, who will have the quest Always After Me Lucky Charms at level 75 if you've completed the previous quest from Friar Nolan. Fianna will have you defeat Hrefna Nightfeather in the wild before rewarding you with more utility spells. Balance gets Supernova, Death gets Bad Juju, Fire gets Backdraft, Ice gets Cooldown, Life gets Guardian Spirit, Myth gets Dimension Shift, and Storm gets Healing Current. Now let's make our way to the wild for a few more spell trainers. As part of the main storyline quest, you'll need to tackle the White Owl Tower dungeon and complete the quest Into the Nest. In the process, you'll free Cassie the Ponycorn from her cage, and afterwards she'll move to the Toadstool Village, where she becomes a new spell trainer. At level 70, you can learn the Mass Prism spells for each school, which can be incredibly helpful in fights against lots of enemies who have resistance to your school. Then, if we check out the Fire Elf Village, we can find Enya Firemoon in the back right corner. Unfortunately, you do have to complete the quest Lair of the Winter Worm to unfreeze the village and be able to talk to her, but once you do, she'll offer to train the level 80 Pierce Blades for every school, which can definitely come in handy against enemies with high resist. Finally, let's head to the Weird, where you want to find the Dunscaith Dungeon. You can access this dungeon by getting the quest Where Demons Dwell from Sir Mallory, which is part of the main quest line, so you shouldn't miss it. You'll need to enter Dunscaith and defeat the Indigo Giant boss before you can head up the stairs to reach Grady, our next spell trainer. However, just like Master Yankan Cook and Mooshu, Grady is actually a spell recipe vendor rather than a traditional trainer. His spell recipe costs range from 10,000 gold to 60,000 gold, but there are some pretty amazing spells available here to craft, including Angry Snow Pig, Athena Battlesight, Catalan, Deer Knight, Grendel's Amends, Hammer of Thor, Handsome Fomori, Hephaestus, Lord of Night, Lore Master, Ninja Piglets, Pigsy, Queen Calypso, Ratspin, Savage Paw, and Winter Moon. In particular, Deer Knight, Ratspin, and Pigsy are absolutely worth training depending on your school, so don't miss out on these. I will note that just like the previous spell recipes, crafting is basically an alternative way to get these lore spells instead of using spellements to unlock them, so you can also open packs or farm gold key bosses to get the spells as well. We're getting there, guys! Moving on to our next world, Azteca, we have yet more Astral School trainers to unlock. These Star, Sun, and Moon trainers are just inside the entrance to 3 points, but all of them are broken until we finish specific quests. At level 84, you can talk to Pakal Red Mask in the Zocalo, who will direct you over to Tezcat 3-star, who then gives you the quest 3rd star on the left. You'll need to defeat Wanandi Black Sky and activate the Star Obelisk to train your level 84 school aura spells, which are some of your best aura options at this level, giving you 25% outgoing school damage, so definitely grab these. At level 86, you can once again talk to Pakal Red Mask and the Zocalo for the quest Turn Up the Sun. You'll need to defeat Clemente Moraga and activate the Sun Obelisk to train your level 86 spells, Primordial, Potent Trap, and Sharpened Blade. If nothing else, absolutely grab both Potent Trap and Sharpened Blade because they allow you to buff both your existing traps and blades and then also stack them with unenchanted ones for extra damage, which is amazing and useful all the way up to max level. Finally, we have good old Moon School, who at this point is just happy to still be included. At level 88, you can talk to Zaylin Reedwalker in the Zocalo for the quest Fly Me to the Moon, where you'll need to defeat one more boss and activate the Moon Obelisk to train the level 88 Polymorph Icehorn, Jaguar, and Terra spells. We've finally reached our last world, Khrysalis, which after the recent Darkmoor update includes several brand new spell trainers to check out. First, let's head over to the Moon Cliffs, where you can access the Eclipse Tower by following the main storyline. Inside, you'll find Arkan Moonblade directly in front of you, who serves as our last Moon School spell trainer. He offers the level 98 shift spells, including Shift Grendel, Piscean, Thornpaw, Green Oak, Dread Paladin, Ogre, and Sugar Glider, which can be kind of fun to experiment with. Behind him, you'll then see Sophia Darkside. After beating her in a duel as you progress the story, she will become a spell trainer who allows you to train all these school shadow transformation spells at level 90, as well as offers a new tutorial on how shadow packs work. Along with her 3 original spells, Shadow Sentinel, Shrike, and Seraph, we're also getting Fiend, Nova, Trickster, and Shepherd. However, there's even more shadow trainers here in the form of shadow creatures for each school that allow you to train new shadow fusions added in the most recent update. Fusion spells range from level 100 up to 180, and you can also trade spellements for shadow spellements from them. Shadow fusions are replacing the original shadow spells, so you'll absolutely want to train the relevant spells for your school here so you can still use shadow spells. For anyone who doesn't understand how shadow magic is changing or how shadow packs work, I recommend checking out my other videos on the topic. For our last shadow spell trainer, we need to head to Konda Desert in the second half of Khrysalis to find Elena Darksun in the Solar Arc. We'll fight her as part of the main questline during Creatures of Shadows and Light, and afterwards she becomes a spell trainer where you can learn the level 95 shadow creature spells that are required to fuse your new shadow spells. For example, to fuse the new version of Sound of Musicology, called Shade of Musicology, you have to fuse the base spell with Dark Shrike, so you'll definitely want to grab these spells for your native school. Finally, let's go to Radiance Reborn, where you'll see Amelia Stardust directly in front of you from the teleport. She offers the level 97 Pierce and Critical School auras, which are a little more niche use, but definitely still useful under the right circumstances. And with that, we're done with a whopping 32 different hidden spell trainers covered. Hopefully there's a few in here you never knew about, but if not, you can safely consider yourself a true wizhead. While some of these spells are definitely more useful than others, there are a few in here that I genuinely think are must-have, so I hope everyone grabs those. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing, as it really does help me to make more amazing Wiz content for you all. And if you want to support me and the channel further, you can hit the join button below to become one of my awesome channel members. As always, I hope to see you out there in the spiral, and happy questing!